Hello, welcome to the National League predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. Last season was dramatic to the very, very end. Sutton United winning the league, Hartlepool winning on penalties in the playoff with the goalkeeper for Torquay scoring in the last minute, and relegation. There was no relegations because of the COVID and the non-void teams in the National Leagues North and South. So we're doing all the game. So let's start off with the bottom three. There are 23 teams overall in the National League. Who you got in 23rd?
Well, to be honest, Craig, I found this quite difficult. Obviously, we've got to talk about the Dover points deduction, which will come into a factor because it's going to be very hard for them. But they're still not the side I've gone to finish bottom. And I'll get my reasons for that out of the way. So I've gone for Kings Lynn. And the reason I've gone for them, they've added a few decent players. The likes of Goldom Toyo and Moraes up top's a good player as well. But they're not beyond the first 11 a National League side. We saw that a bit last year. They really struggled both financially and on the pitch towards the end of the year. And I do think, unfortunately, at some point this year, the financial side might catch up with them. We saw when it was released about a month or so ago, they've got the most expensive season ticket in the National League. And I mean, that's ridiculous, really, for a side down there, despite the region and all of the mitigating factors with it. They're not going to have big attendances. They're going to struggle a bit at home. And I actually think in the end, unfortunately, Kings Lynn will be the side that finish bottom.
It's a good shout. I've gone for the blatantly obvious, Dover. The struggle with Dover, obviously, the 12-point deduction, which for me is harsh. I know they can fulfill the fixtures, but there was a pandemic and finances are tough. When no crowd, you get no money. And the way the National League have done it, not just for Dover, I think the teams in the National League North and South, it's beyond the joke. Only because of the fact of the 12 points, they've got to catch 4 games to start with. How many players can they recruit? Because they've got a really hefty fine as well, which does not help with club when we've already been struggling for money. And we know that as ourselves, as Luton fans. That's the only reason why Dover, for me, are bottom. So who you got for 22nd?
Well, then I've gone for the blatantly obvious. So I've got Dover in 22nd as a result of the points deduction. I think it's just too much. And actually, a bit like you for all of the clubs, particularly the Dover situation, the points deduction, I'll be honest, wasn't as big of an issue for me. The real thing that annoyed me was the hefty fines that were going about, because that's what's led to this situation. No income and being asked to play a season of fixtures and have that expenditure. To then put fines in for teams, it didn't work out for me. But still, Dover are going to be 22nd. The one saving grace potentially is that Ricky Miller's back. And last time that he was at Dover, Ricky Miller was a goal machine. He's not quite got the same players around him this time. And as you say, it's a big ask from -12. But I think he'll be the man that stops them finishing bottom. He does have the potential to save them. They've got a good manager. They have signed pretty well for the budget they have. But I don't think it's going to be enough, unfortunately. So I hope I'm wrong, but Dover for 22nd.
Roles are reversed. I've gone for Kings Lynn in 22nd place. You pretty much nailed it on the head there. The teams that got promoted, the season before, should I say, wherever math is, I still think it's going to be a struggle for them. I think it might be a bit too much. Even though they started pretty well last season, I think it might be a bit too much for them this season. So who's got the final relegation spot?
Well, there was a few to choose from here for me. Obviously, Barnet were down there last year. They're not going to be this year, in my opinion, given their recruitment. As you mentioned, a lot of the sides that came up the year before, this is going to be like their first proper season in the National League with the pressure of relegation potentially. And for clubs like Wealdstone, for Weymouth, even though they've re-signed Brandon Goodship, who again, a bit like the Ricky Miller situation could sign them, they're going to be difficult seasons for them both. Woking were awful last year. They've signed well on paper, but a massive overhaul. If they have a poor start, is it going to be too much playing catch up? Dagenham and Redbridge worried me this summer. I mean, they finished mid-table last year. They haven't signed hugely well, but I think they'll be okay. Yeovil again, another poor season last year. Mark Little added a bit of experience. They signed a player from Northern Ireland, Dale Gorman, who's pretty good from Glentoran, but they've lost more experience in the dressing room, and I'm still concerned they'll be in the bottom half. The other one that I really looked at was Maidenhead, because they've added a couple of good players, but they relied on so many narrow victories last season. And if you get that 1-goal swing, I use the example of Sheffield United in the Premier League. It only takes a 1-goal swing in every fixture and you've suddenly lost 30, 40 points over the year. But out of them, I've gone for Wealdstone because they've lost 3 or 4 really good players to divisional rivals. They had a really great start last year. They were up in the playoffs the first 10 or 12 games. They were looking really great. Barely picked up points the second half of the year, ended up finishing awfully. And I think they're not going to be able to recreate the start, which for me makes them favourites for that third relegation spot.
For me, either Wealdstone or Weymouth. I'm just going to say Wealdstone just. Probably on the final day, they'll probably lose out to Weymouth. So we've pretty much got the same three sides, to be honest, near the bottom. So, but how do we get to the top seven? We know the playoffs in the National League are just as more interesting as they're all three playoffs in the Football League. So let's start off with 7th place.
7th and 6th for me is a dilemma because I've got 3 sides and I don't know which 2 to pick. So there's a couple of obvious ones in there based on recent seasons. So Stockport being one of them. They've added a bit of squad depth, but maybe slightly been overtaken by a couple of others in terms of quality of the squad overall. It's a big overhaul at Stockport again, but they have improved the squad. So I think they'll be up there as always. Halifax always seem to have a good season. They're really good at home when they've got a full crowd in, which will make a difference too. It's been quite a quiet window for them, but the likes of Warburton, Gilmore, Waters and Sloot, they all improved the squad. It's not a spectacular window, but the big loss for them is then Jake High to Wrexham, which is going to make a dent in their goal scoring abilities. The third side I've got is the wild card, and that's Altrincham, because they were right down in the bottom half last year. They have signed so much experience, which has given them a really good blend in the squad. So Ben Pringle from Morecambe and AJ Leach-Smith, David Fitzpatrick from Port Vale being examples. They got Denanga from Stevenage, who a bit younger, but I think could be a little masterstroke there if they play to his strengths, and a good young midfielder in Connor Kirby. So I just think on paper, they've signed so well and they've got a really good blend in the squad. So do you know what? I'm sure Stockport will be in. I'm going to save them for 6th. I'm going to chuck in Altrincham above Halifax. They're my surprise for the season. I just think they've got so much quality in the squad now and so much experience too that they're my big wild card for the season. And because Halifax haven't done quite as much, maybe they'll have a tougher year. So Altrincham is my crazy one of the season.
I had a 3-horse race for 7th place as well. Dagenham, Bournemouth, Grimsby. I don't think Grimsby do as well as many people would think. I know the off the field stuff starting to get a bit better now. I'm going to go with Bournemouth for 7th place. That's probably my wild card, Bournemouth, even though they're not really a wild card. So that's my 7th place. You already said 6th. That's going to be Stockport. Surprisingly low, in my opinion. 6th place for me is Southend. Once again, I know it's Phil Brown. He's got a lot of experience getting the off the field stuff sorted, get it out of the way. It depends on the playing squad. I think there'll be a bit more pressure. I think it's like not as much pressure as like a Luton from yesteryear. I think they'll be disappointed because I think there's better teams around, above them. That's why I picked them 6th, but I think there's better teams there already. So that's why I'm going for Southend in 6th for the first time in the National League. They're probably the lowest ever finish. 5th place.
Well, when I got to 5th, I started to worry a bit because I had about 8 sides left that I thought could make the playoffs and only had 5 left to choose from. So at this point, I had to rule out a few. So Boreham Wood and Bromley, who snuck in last year, Bromley, I had to rule them out just because they've been solid, like you say, but they both risk going backwards in a strong league. I had Eastleigh up there because of Jake Hesketh, who I think could be a great sign at National League level, but again, not quite enough overall. And my big one, Craig, because I've tipped them to win the league and they only missed out on penalties last year. I've left Torquay out the top 7, and that's not like me at all.
What?
He's done a big rebuilding job after that. We've seen teams before that have struggled or have got beaten by heartbreak in playoff finals at all levels and then had a really poor year. He's added loads of young players, but I just don't think they'll be consistent. So in 5th place, I've gone for your 6th, which is Southend. A good manager, some excellent signings, the likes of Josh Coulson, Reece Murphy, Abu Agogo, all really good additions. Lots of players that have done it at this level before. They need stability off the pitch. My worry for Southend not making it is actually off the pitch. If something goes wrong behind the scenes, that's where they could miss out. But on paper, they've got a top 7 side. So Southend in 5th, comfortably in the playoffs for me.
My 5th place has gone to Knox County. They seem to be in that middle bracket of 3rd to 7th, and it's really bugging me. So Knox County should really be pushing for the title, to be honest. But 5th place for me. 4th place.
Well, I've gone for Knox County in 4th place. I actually thought about not putting them in because they've signed a lot of good players, but they've taken an approach this year of signing a lot of players that have done well in the National League. So a couple from Torquay being a good example, a couple of key players from there. But we've seen this at Luton. We had a year where we brought in lots of good National League players, and we actually went backwards a little bit when we were in non-league doing that. So I don't think they're going to have enough to challenge for the title, and they could be one of the casualties if they don't have a good start. But they've got a bigger fan base. They're going to have loads of fans through the gate. They are one of the clubs where revenue-wise may be slightly protected. So based on the current squad, I just have to say playoffs again. Like you, nothing spectacular. I don't think they'll push on, but I think they'll be somewhere between 4th and 7th.
4th place for me is the team that I normally pick, my favourite National League team. It is Chesterfield. Do you know they've done remarkably well? James Ray done a fantastic job last season, sneaking them into the playoffs, considering where they were when they first came over. Danny Rowe obviously knows the National League very well with AC Fylde. He's going to be absolutely crucial for them this season. If he can get on a scoring run, Chesterfield are going to look really dangerous. So I've got them for 4th place. 3rd place, who have you gone for?
Well, for the 3rd time in a row, Craig, I've gone one up from you. I've gone for Chesterfield in 3rd. Same reasons. They finished the season with good momentum. They built a really good side in the second half of last year. They've added a little bit of experience at both ends of the pitch. So they've got Loach as a goalkeeper. They've got Stephen Payne. I know he had a controversial end at Grimsby, shall we say, on the pitch with one of his own players, but he's still a good striker at this level. So I just think they've got enough experience. They've got a good squad. Things seem to finally be settled behind the scenes there, and I can't see anything stopping them. And 3rd place, crucially, obviously means they miss out on the first playoff knockout round, which is where they fell last year.
3rd place for me is your 6th place team, is Stockport County. I just think they just look solid. You literally explained it perfectly. A few changes, but I expect them to be really up there and no problems at all. 2nd place, who misses out on automatic promotion?
My 1st and 2nd, I was very confident of early on, but not so much in which way round. But then again, I went back to remembering the years of Luton in the National League. And in 2nd place, I've gone for the team that I think you're going to have top, which is Wrexham. Because I tipped them to win it last year. It was too early. But they have brought in excellent EFL experience. I mean, they've brought in a top scorer from League Two last year. I mean, what more can you ask for in that? Paul Mullin, if they play to his strength, could be one of the most insane signings in recent National League history. They brought Jake Hyde in from Halifax as well, who was a good National League player, has done well over the years at Barnet and the likes too. If they get those players firing, they can send them to promotion and then they can win the league. I still think there's a couple of positions they need to add. And my big worry for them, Craig, despite having Phil Parkinson, the promotion experience, a really solid manager, is will pressure play a part? How many times did we see that with Luton? We've seen it with Knox County in the last couple of years. The pressure on Wrexham is you've spent big money, you've got the top scorer in League Two, you've got an EFL manager, you've got Hollywood owners, you're going to have some sort of documentary behind the scenes, you're going to win the title. Everyone thinks it at the moment. All of the TV talk will be about Wrexham. And will pressure play a part? We've seen it with Luton, we've seen it with other sides. That's my worry. So that's why I've got them for 2nd place. And because I think my 1st place side will just about edge it. But it's going to be a tight title race.
2nd place for me has to be Torquay, to be honest. Gary Johnson, you've literally said for the last 2 seasons, Gary Johnson, he will be devastated back in early June with that playoff final. And he will really want to bounce back and get that promotion. However, he's going to do it the same way for me. He's going to do it through the playoffs. Even though it was heartbreaking in the end for them, they should really have won that final, to be honest.
Well, they had a perfectly good goal ruled out as well.
Yes, it was. I can understand it. But yeah, Torquay for me. Let's quickly say who's going to win the playoffs.
Oh, that's a good question. I hadn't even thought of that in all truth. I did that with the EFL as well. Everything says it should be Wrexham, but I don't think it will. I think pressure will play the part. I know this is potentially a stupid move. If he stays there for the season, there's no problems off the pitch. They build confidence. They get the fans back behind them. I think of that playoff team, it's going to be Southend.
Once you've ruled Wrexham out, I knew you was going to say Southend. Well, it should be up there, to be fair, with the fan base. They should be, because they want to back the team. They want to get back into the Football League. My team to go up I think it'll be redemption for Torquay. Have to do it. I said it was heartbreaking last time. I think they'll learn a lesson from it. So you already know my winner in Wrexham. I've gone for the blatant obvious. Who have you gone to win the National League? Because I'm trying to figure out who out of the list, and you've already ruled out. Oh, you've gone for Grimsby. I bet you've gone for Grimsby.
I'll give you a clue, Craig, and it's Grimsby. I have gone for Grimsby to win the league. Look, they've had a summer under Paul Hurst. They're going to be a different animal. I know it was via the playoffs, but he's taken them up from the National League before. They've got a squad capable of challenging for the title still, regardless of the chaos off the pitch towards the end of last year. They've got rid of a few of what seemed to be the bad eggs in the dressing room. And I mean, based on that, I've gone for the 2 relegated clubs to go back up. And I can't remember the last time, if ever, that's happened since we've gone to 2 promotion teams in the National League. They often say it's very hard to get back out when you drop out of the Football League. And we've seen that with so many big clubs. But if ever there's a time, it's a season where fans are coming back in after a year that clubs have not got used to that. And at that level, they've just got to win the games against the bottom half sides. There are going to be some massive games at the top. It pained me to leave Torquay out. And I still think I might regret not having Wrexham for the title. But Grimsby, for me, is going to the wire. And the final day on BT will be great if it's Wrexham and Grimsby going for the title.
And those are predictions, as you can see on the screen. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down there. Give us your predictions on the National, who's going down, who's going into the playoffs, and who's going into the Football League. While you're down there, give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. And we'll see you next time.